What's interesting is that many of our clients worldwide consider NSF to be their fourth emergency service. In other words, when they are challenged by the regulatory agencies, when they get into trouble with those agencies and they receive whether it be a warning letter or another form of severe regulatory censure, they call us. So the subject of this 6 to Fix in 6, as challenging as it may sound, is to actually look at warning letters or their equivalent, both the causes and their prevention, from our perspective. So it's just our opinion that is a product of all of the experience that we've gained over the many years of helping companies when they get into trouble. There are two types of companies. There are those that are prepared to invest in prevention, and there are those that are prepared to pay an awful lot more in reaction when things go badly wrong. Our recommendation, invest in the prevention. It's a lot cheaper in the long term. Your legacy is protected in the long term, and it's a lot more pleasant in the long term. When you are reacting, when you are in remediation, when your licenses have been suspended, it's not a pleasant environment. You're spending a lot of money. It's very stressful. Your legacy and your reputation is at risk. So it's a bit like house insurance. It's worth spending the money just in case and focusing on prevention. Anyway, these are our 6 to Fix. We've really worked hard to keep this simple. Let's start with number 1. Those companies that get into trouble with the regulatory agencies actually set themselves up to lose, because often the reasons why regulatory agencies note the observations around procedural non-compliance and problems with the quality system is not intentional on part of the company. It's an unintentional consequence of over-complexity. So the more complex your systems, the greater the risk of errors and mistakes. So one of the common causes of warning letters and their equivalent is over-complexity. So therefore, to prevent, the best in class prevent by being really, really passionate, obsessive in fact, on simplification. So that's number 1. Number 2, one of the common causes relates to poor surveillance systems. We have our audit and self-inspection system, our deviation system. We have systems built in that are there to spot the weaknesses, to actually flag up the concerns, fix them before any regulatory agency comes in and audits. So those that suffer from regulatory criticism usually have really, really poor surveillance systems. They really don't know where their strengths are or where their weaknesses are. In order to prevent, adopt the vital or the law of the vital few. So measure only what matters and really concentrate on doing those basics, the deviation and K.I.S.S system, the audit and self-inspection system, and how you manage knowledge across the organisation. Do those exceptionally well. Number 3, companies that do get into trouble actually have a kappa habit. In other words, they focus on corrective action and ignore the preventive action. Those that have good regulatory performance do the opposite. They are obsessed by prevention over reaction. So don't do kappa well, do PACA exceptionally well. Number 4, those that train often get into trouble. Those that educate rarely do. Big difference between the two. Training is what you do for your pets. Education is what you do for your children. So make sure your workforce is educated from the top to the bottom. They understand the why, not just the how. They are emotionally connected to the patient, as well as understanding at a really detailed level their products and their processes that enable them to manage risk and enable them to solve problems. So really invest in education, not training. Number 5, those that get into trouble with the agencies often have leaders and managers at every level that are invisible. They're rarely seen on the shop floor. They're not there to guide, mentor or enforce standards. They're doing emails, they're in meetings. Those that prevent the regulatory action from being taken invest very heavily in making sure their leaders, their supervisors and their managers are visible. Their office is the shop floor, the warehouse, the laboratory, where they can enforce standards and lead by example. Number 6 is really important because you all have very complex supply chains. Those companies that get into trouble often get into trouble because their suppliers, their third-party contractors are the weak link in the chain. Why? Because they've been treated as contractors rather than extensions of their supply chain, extensions of their packing line. They're not treated as colleagues. So those companies that actually have a great regulatory track history, put an awful lot of time and effort in making their contractors feel part of the team rather than being ostracized. So they are our 6 to fix. Avoid the causes, focus on the prevention. And the free resources that are available to you, please go to our library of free resources. You'll get all of these: the science of simplification, law of the vital few, how to change habits, how to prevent regulatory criticism from coming your way. And at NSF, we specialise in remediation. We'd rather you prevented it happening in the first place. But if you do get into trouble, please give us a call. We take a 3 C's approach. We focus on very unique collaboration with our clients. We communicate very clearly and effectively with them. And we also focus on changing the culture, because if you don't change the culture, the habits, the routines and the practices, you'll be in trouble again. So hope you find those 6 to fix easy to understand, and please access these free resources for more.